$17.5 a year. We rent to Lathrop for Chet.
Reported to remains out of service. That vehicle is still over in New York, having body work done. I actually spoke to the maintenance guy today, just to get an update, and we're looking at another 2 weeks, which will, if we get it back in 2 weeks, end up being a total of 8 weeks the vehicle has been gone. And I'll save you the details. What else did I have for you? We're here for this tonight. Oh, we want to welcome Greg Swain back, who you all approved a leave of absence back in June or July for his active duty deployment. He returned just last week, so he has rejoined our ranks. So we're excited to have Greg back. Other than that, that's all I got, pending any questions.
Great. Thank you. Sharon, saw you back there. Do you have anything you want to tell us about?
All the tax bills have gone out the door. Water bills have gone out the door. Those are the big things.
How's the new machine working? You got it all figured out?
The machine.
The little handheld?
Oh, yes, but now we've lost the hockey puck.
Now you lost the hockey puck.
It goes with it, we don't know where it is.
I got a couple hockey pucks in there.
But that's for the 35-day read, so. But yeah, no, the little handheld's working fine.
Good, thank you. Meredith didn't stay, right?
No, she'll be here next.
No. Chris, I see you back there. Is there anything you want to let us know what's going on in your world?
I am here tonight. We've been busy, have hearings and or meetings spread every Tuesday between the DRB and the Planning Commission right now. A handful of things going on there. They're wrapping up the update on zoning. Just trying to keep my head above water right now. It's been very busy. So I've also taken on having to do the scribe role for both those boards as well, since we've lost our note taker scribe. And have been working on trying to come up with some plans for better communication out to the public on permitting. And trying to figure out, I believe once things settle down here around the first of the year, trying to post out, I can generate a report out of NEMRIC that'll show, we can post out online all the permits that have been issued. And that way people have a chance to look at it if they feel like it, and they can reach out if they have questions. So trying to figure out some public outreach.
Okay, thanks, Chris. And Jill, do you want to give us a update on what's going on in the water world?
Okay, now I can find the mute button. Yeah. I was trying to, I was meeting with Valerie earlier today and I kept feeling my face getting redder and hotter. And I was like, man, this project is really getting me. I'm on antibiotics. I didn't realize that I was supposed to stay out of the sun. So I am super rosy red, like I went to a fun place that I've been in Bristol. So it's probably clear to most of you that the Pine Street Waterline project is nearing the end, which means we're to like the biggest part of the project, which is the Pine Street old waterline was deadened on Friday. Meaning that was it. All connections to the waterline were closed and 2 different segments were actually cut, like completely removed in order to tie in Munsell Ave and in order to tie in 6-inch service to Bristol Bakery. So that was a pretty giant day on Friday that went super smooth, followed by several messages left by people to an empty office, and then really upset people on Saturday morning who didn't have water. So we did find 63 Pine Street and 6 Lauritsen Lane before 9 o'clock. We had 63 and we're headed that way to try to find why in God's name would they not have water, given that the curb they were attached to is what's on the map, and it certainly had copper on the other side, and it's like right in front of the house. After some exploration with different tools, we found another curb in the driveway 35 feet away that is historically was there previously when other types of structures were there. It turns out that was still providing her water from the old Pine Street line. So today Munson made a 35-foot connection of 3/4 copper from that brand new curb to the actual water line under the driveway. So that got taken care of. And then the other call was from 6 Lauritsen Lane, which was really, really surprising because number one, it's not on the maps. Number two, it was always thought that they were connected up Lauritsen Lane off of Maple. So again, weird discovery of a water line under the edge of a driveway of one of the trailers on Pine Street that wove through a number of trailers to get to 6. And then this morning got another message that 5 didn't have water. So it turns out that 1-inch service, A, needed a tap on the brand new main, and B, went to 3 trailers. So it's kind of like what others are about to do with the copper line, where the service comes in and keys off. So this map was provided around 10:30 or 11 from Addison County Community Trust, because I wanted to make sure that when McDougal got there to do the tap, that we didn't need 2 more taps, because I knew at least 1 more didn't have water and maybe 2. Number 8 is in Florida. Number 6 reported Saturday morning, actually Friday night, but finally to us Saturday morning, they didn't have water. And number 5 reported this morning. So we were pretty pleased to find that just 1 tap and a connection to that 1-inch got everybody back online after that. And this document is saved in 3 places now. And the location of all of these curbs to where they actually are is now updated on our paper version of our maps. And I know Steve is going to make us record drawings of this project and include a bird's eye view of this particular area. So more lessons learned in what we had for kind of our mysteries over the weekend and into today, and what we can possibly figure out to do better as we move into the bigger sections. I don't know if it's actually shutting off everybody's curb ahead of time to confirm that it works, which is tricky because people generally need to be home to do that. Or if it's asking people, do you know where your water service is? And trying to get people to understand that they do have a water service and one side of it is theirs, and it behooves them to know where it is for a number of reasons. So yeah, that's the new tap. And the old curb that's sitting right under that driveway is what you're seeing in that picture. So basically, Munson decided to step up big time. Number one, they took care of this. We just had to call in a consultant to the town of Bristol to do the tap so that it could be done live. So no new people needed to go without water. And they took it on big to do both Maple and Taylor tomorrow, and then reschedule Liberty for Wednesday, which still stays in those 4 days worth of shutoffs. So there's no new notices that needed to go out to anybody except Liberty and Larson. So, because Liberty clearly was not shut off today. We've also given a heads up to Mount Abe that if for some ridiculous reason the valve at the intersection of West Pleasant and Liberty did not shut the water service off and we had to go to the end of West, one of their 2 feeds that go to the school would be shut off for a number of hours. Theoretically, they should still have water. However, theories get bunked by reality. So I just gave them a heads up. They've let the supervisory union know so that if there did happen to be an issue with water, which is like many thresholds would have to be passed before that happened. But if it did, they've gotten a heads up along with KTP again, and she's let everybody know. So after that, I think all that's left is groundwork, taking out valve boxes and hydrants and whatnot that don't go to anything real, and paving the road, which means we'll all kind of breathe a sigh of relief that the big part of the project that's been really time consuming is almost done.
That's a picture of the consultant doing the live tap. Nice.
Looks like a state job.
Yeah.
It's a
pretty
hurry
great.
up and wait.
Yeah, it doesn't take him but maybe 15 minutes maybe, but it's great because you don't have to shut the water line off and disturb everybody.
Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.
All right, I think I've got everyone. I didn't see Bruce. Is Bruce on?
No.
No.
Okay. All right, and we no other department heads in the room. All right, so moving on. Regular business. Bristol Fire Department's Fire Chief Brett LaRose and firefighter candidate Nicholas Gilbo. Thank you. Go ahead, Brett.
From here, that's fine.
That's fine, or you can,
Thanks, Em.
you can scoot out if you
We'll
want
scoot
to.
back a
We'll
little bit
scoot
so you
back.
can be seen.
Thank you. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Nicholas Gilbo, right? You got it right? I'm struggling with that too. So, yeah, Nick, he participated or attended our Operation May Day, which was that statewide recruitment initiative back in May. And a few weeks ago, we reconnected through mutual friends, and next thing you know, he was in for an interview last week. I was accompanied by Valerie and the assistant fire chief. They were also in attendance. So we're here this evening for you all to ask any questions you may have of Nick before you consider his appointment.
I'm not gonna give him any reason not to join.
And it looked like that event actually worked, so that's great. You can report back to the state.
I think it's just worth saying, Nick is a classic example of, a volunteer, someone who wants to volunteer, and, the many things that need to be considered before making such a commitment. Nick has a family of 4 children of various ages, and
So he
children.
just wants to get
Get
out.
He needed May to September to talk to the wife.
Those of us who have been in this type of business in a volunteer type capacity, we all know what a burden it can be on the family at home. So he has certainly given this a lot of thought. And because of that, I know he will be successful at the Bristol Fire Department. So.
Great. Any questions for Nick?
Yeah.
Nick, thanks for your interest.
Thank
Thanks for serving your community this way.
I don't know if you have to do a vote or, I do have the signature book with me.
Let's do a vote. I think we have in the past.
All right, I'll make a motion to appoint firefighter candidate Nicholas Gearbolt.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do the signing.
Thank you.
And if I may, just very quickly, so what I'm holding in my hand is the historical signature book of the Bristol Fire Department that every person who has passed through those doors has signed. And Nick will be the 335th person to serve the community in this capacity. So Nick, would you do us the honor of signing this page, which I proactively took out ahead of time because it's a big deal to take it out of that book.
Well, like time in the law, new law, you don't have 4 or 5 pens.
Welcome aboard. Right.
Congratulations.
Thank you all for your time this evening. We are
Thanks
going
for
to
coming.
excuse ourselves and take care of some other paperwork.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, item number 2, Basin Street Improvement Project, Local Concerns Meeting with Patrick Travers, Municipal Project Manager, and Chris Lathrop from DeWitt and King.
Good evening, everyone. I am Pat Travis,
Slide a couple seats up
the
and I'll slide back.
project manager for the Basin Street Improvement Project. Right up, guys. Thank you. And I assume everybody knows what the Basin Street Improvement Project, the goals of it are, to fix
Improve Basin Street?
to get down there
And be able to get out.
There you go. Fix the geometry at the intersection, also improve drainage along Main Street there, just east of downtown, as well as stabilize that slope, which is failing on along the west side of Basin Street. So as part of the project development process, the B-Trans, who is funding a major portion of this, requires what's called a local concerns meeting. And during the local concerns meeting, our design consultant, who is Chris Lathrop of Du Bois and King, has the opportunity to present the project, summary of what's going on there, identify any challenges that they've done during their research so far, as well as take in input from the public as far as public's concerns and ideas the public might have for approaching the project. So, and then as the slide up there says, at the end of it, there'll be plenty of time for questions. So, on that note, Chris, I'll turn the meeting over to you so you can present your findings.
Thanks, Pat. Hello, hi, everyone. As he said, I'm Chris Lathrop. I do actually live in town most of my life, so, well, familiar with the area. As Pat said, tonight's meeting is the local concerns meeting. I realized as I was going through the slides earlier, some of these are probably out of order, but I'll show you where we are in the process in a minute. But the purpose of the meeting is I'll be going over just a quick project overview, briefly touch on the project development process that comes along with the federal funding that was received for this project, solicit comments and concerns from the residents, as well as obviously the Basin Street folks, as well as any other town folks that have comments or concerns, and then open it up for any questions. So move ahead. So you look around the room, I think most of you know the area, but I don't know if you can see this. You can see that on there.
Looks like it's working.
Well, it is, but not very well.
There we
Okay.
go.
Yeah.
It
You
was
see
up
it?
high enough.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
So, we got Main Street, that's not showing up very well, but to the left here, we have,
The TV thingy, I think, has a pointer.
Okay.
I think so.
Still want to know these, then.
yeah,
Or we can have Val, so can you mouse it, Val?
Can I do what?
Can you mouse in terms of where he's talking, there you go, because you got your pointer.
yeah, so up above, we have, obviously Main Street, and then, that comes in and intersects with, Mountain Street to the north there, continues as East Street to the right, and then what's highlighted in blue is obviously Basin Street. And it's a little hard to tell, but we have a red outline there of the anticipated project area. So the project really has, in my mind, three components. Basin Street is, as we all know, very steep and provides it's the last 200 feet up to East Street is about 20% and provides no level landing for a car to stop and comfortably pull out either east onto East Street or west onto Main Street. In addition to that, the sidewalk that crosses that is also at 20%, which excessively exceeds the ADA requirements. So that's one portion. The second portion is the slope that actually comes down to the south of Main Street there. It's been unstable for years. The town's put stone and dumped concrete sidewalk blocks, etc. over the years. So that's the second portion. We'll be looking at stabilizing that slope. And then the third piece, which is probably contributing to the instability of that, is the water that crosses Main Street, is where there's two different culverts that come across. In addition, we are looking at some stormwater improvements. Most of it will be dealt with, hopefully, with the project area that we were just showing, with some, addressing the drainage, providing some drainage structures that hopefully have some deep sumps to minimize the silts and stuff that are coming off and out of the drainage system. But, and then further down, you can move that down now, Valerie, we will be looking at this ditch area that's along the bottom of Basin Street as well. Probably recommending that gets cleaned out, reseeded, a portion of it by the outlet of the pipe, stone riprap outlet. And then we'll look at potentially, there was a study that recommended putting in stone check dams, but we'll look at that. Our only concern is if you minimize the capacity of the ditch, then under large storm events, you're risking overtopping the ditch itself. So that comes with its own issues. So we'll be looking at all that. So project background. These are have been known issues for years. Back in 2008, Green Mountain Engineering did a evaluation of the bank stabilization, and they also came up with 3 alternatives for improving the Basin Street vertical geometry. I'm not sure the history between 2008 and 2019, but in 2019, they dusted that study off and did some updates to that study, and I'm assuming presented that to the select board at that time. Since then, the town.
One of the important elements of that updated study, the earlier one provided 3 recommendations, and the 2019 study focused on just one,
Okay, yeah,
the recommended one,
okay.
which was creating some sort of platform landing area,
Plateau,
yeah, at the top.
Okay, so in 2022, the town applied for and was awarded this year in 2023 a Transportation Alternatives Program grant, which is federally funded and comes with its own set of requirements, which is why in some regards we're taking a step backwards. And in addition, the town also applied for and was awarded a downtown transportation grant, which included a stormwater component. So as I noted, with federal funding comes certain requirements. The funding is administered through the V-Trans Municipal Assistance Bureau. This is a flow chart that they have in their policies and procedures manual. It starts out with the project being selected and grant money awarded. Then they solicit for and get on board a municipal project manager, which Pat is. And then they select a design consultant and have a kickoff meeting, which those steps we've checked off. Now, the giant circle, we are at the local concerns meeting where we solicit your concerns and suggestions for improving the project area. I will not go through the whole process, but the next couple steps is developing a purpose and need statement, which gets provided to V-Trans, and once approved, they allow us to move forward and actually do, in this case, we'll potentially look at new alternatives. Maybe we'll just dust off the alternatives that were done before, but we'll come back to you with 2 or 3 alternatives for the select board to choose the ultimate one to proceed forward. And once that occurs, we then get the green light to proceed forward with the design. And then, as you can see, there's continues to be a long process, which includes environmental permitting, the right-of-way, and several design steps that get submitted to V-Trans and reviewed, and finally gets to construction. So,
How many other public presentations do you anticipate as part of this process?
so this normally has to be either 2 or 3. Hopefully we can consolidate the next 2, but if not, there'll be a 3rd one.
Okay. So in other words, there'll be other opportunities for members of the public to weigh in and give their thoughts. And
The next one would be, I guess that's somewhat up to you, but the next one would be the last one in that regard, and the 3rd meeting would be presenting what this is what we're doing. So moving on.
So Chris, did I hear you right? You said you'd be coming back with options, but would they be different options from the 3 we already been presented, or?
Well, Valerie and we'll have to talk about that.
Okay.
I mean, I think the way it was scoped is we were going to look at those, basically what had been done before, just take a deeper dive.
Okay.
So,
Well, also, I think,
summarize.
I don't think either of those earlier studies benefited from soil borings.
Correct.
And so now we are having soil borings done.
There was some limited stuff previously, but no, we will have more information
Yeah.
at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Chris, in addition to perhaps going into deeper detail on the prior alternatives presented by Green Mountain Engineering, would it be possible you might come up with some unique new alternatives?
we can take a look.
I don't think either
There's
of the,
not a lot of options,
Okay.
Right.
you know?
and I don't recall to what extent the earlier studies focused on the stormwater.
Right,
Right.
Yeah, and I
Right.
think that's a new focus that will
Right, it
include
was
some
mainly like
additional
the road,
treatments.
road support and then
Correct.
the landing to be able to get out
a couple different
safely.
options for the slope portion, and I'm not even sure they looked at the drainage portion.
I think the cheapest way is a parking garage with a centrifuge under
Use that space.
Located where?
in that
Cheapest, you
green
said.
square, in that
Yeah,
red
green
square.
space.
So, on July 26th, we did hold the kickoff meeting here, and several of the Basin Street residents attended that. So I did want to note, some of the concerns that have already been brought up. So some of those were, again, reiterating the fact that it's a steep roadway and steep sidewalk grades, concerns with drainage and water running into properties, slope stability, and then issues raising concern on, what are the impacts to my property going to be, as well as are we going to be able to access my property during construction. So those were some of the input we got at that meeting, and now I would open it up for.
And recently, Jill, our water operator, brought to our attention concerns about the water line that runs underneath Basin Street. And any kind of excavation of Basin Street, she can speak to it more if she wants to, but it's a major connection for the entire system to the pump house and the reservoir. So,
Go ahead, Jill.
any disruption would be.
Jill's raising her hand.
Yeah, go ahead, Jill.
You're muted.
You muted.
When he presented the project area, I had like 2 big red alarms go off that I just want to make him aware of, and the project team aware of, is that big super steep slopey grade that you guys are worried about, that's above the main septic treatment system, okay? So like that big slopey grade, like if you're looking at Basin Street going down like this, right over here, where that slope is behind Main Street, that big field that you see down there that's shaped like an L, that is 8 leach fields, 4 huge septic tanks, dosing siphons, the entire treatment system for the Bristol core sewer. And coming down that slope, at the top of the slope in the parking lot behind South Mountain is a dosing siphon. Coming down that is a sewer main. At the bottom of that is the last sewer manhole, and just after that is the influence structure to the septic tank. So be very well aware that there's a sewer main under there. Then move yourself over to Basin Street, and there is the main line coming from the water pump house on South Street across the river, up Basin Street, across what you could call Main or East Street, up Mountain Street and up Mountain Terrace. That is the one and only way that water gets made in the town of Bristol, that gets up to the water tank past Mountain Terrace, way up by the hiking trails. So I'm very, very much not wanting a hole drilled in that line, and also believe that any kind of construction happening on Basin Street needs to take into consideration that there is the one and only water line to bring water to the tank from the treatment plant under that road. So any kind of excessive like banging, any like cutting, you'd be cutting into a bedded water line. So just be thinking of that when you're working, creating the work plan for that project, both along the slope and along Basin Street. And we would love to not be blinded at the top of the street and see that we're not pulling out into traffic. We go there every single day, at least once a day.
And don't do any work on a Friday.
We warn you, Fridays are dangerous.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you.
And that is a 12-inch main, right, Jill? That's a 12-inch main.
It's a 10. I think it's a 10, but I think the 12 is on Main Street.
I believe it's an 8-inch main according to the as-built drawings and drawings that I saw.
So given that the water line runs directly under that road, is the plan, and then we have the other options that we've looked at. The plan would be to change that road, correct? So that would
So
directly impact the water line?
one option is to stay on alignment
Okay,
and just raise it.
Ah.
So you would, at the bottom of the hill, you'd steepen it quicker, and basically you'd have
change the grade.
change the grade. That comes with issues. It's supported by retaining walls on both sides
Right,
that need to be addressed or eliminated, and slopes, depending on property owner.
yeah, right, because it's like a bridge or something underneath, isn't it?
It's
not
basically
like
just two
solid,
walls.
it's not like solid earth.
No,
No,
no.
okay,
No, as a matter of fact, on the east side, it's almost a 12-foot vertical wall. So,
okay.
so that's one option.
So putting stuffing on top of it,
Right, you'd be removing the pavement and then
okay,
coming up. Then there is an option of kind of, as you progress up the hill, come by the last house or first house is going downhill,
Yeah.
it would be kind of turn to the west and loop up and
okay.
move the road over,
Got it.
which I guess the only issues I would see there is you have to have some type of ditch down that side. But again, the water line must be, 5+ feet?
I mean, it should be. That's what the standards are. I wasn't there when it got buried.
1905.
Yeah.
I imagine at that slope,
No,
it's
it's
in
80s.
That was very.
varying depths of bury. I've noticed digging on mountains that they end up super, super deep at the bottom and not as deep at the top. But I don't know. I wasn't there, so.
Actually, I think through that, I think the plan said 6 foot minimum, but we'll have to. So, thank you.
Now, Jill, did I understand you to say there's also a sewer line that runs under Basin Street?
No,
No.
it's
Nope.
further west.
Further west,
Yep,
okay.
it is further west. It's behind kind of like South Mountain Tavern. It slopes down, but like that's how we get to the sewer system is we go down Basin Street, we go around that little green building at the bottom that we call the Basin Street building that's like spray painted with the word beef on the side of it. We go through that gate and all the goods are there.
Jill, I'm not sure that area of the slope will be affected by this project.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
It only goes to the edge of South Mountain's property.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I just wanted to disclose that there's a sewer line once you get behind South Mountain, and if there was gonna be a whole bunch of stone added, to just know that there's a sewer line and manholes and stuff that we just have to be aware of putting risers on and whatnot.
Yep.
That picture's early on, the sluice way
Ow.
is at the bottom of the.
You can't see the
bottom of the wall.
Isn't that you working there right there?
I think that's you.
How old would you have been?
This said
Statement in
1910.
somebody's imagination.
1910, so I would have been like negative
Yeah.
50.
So these are the retaining walls that are still there now? Is that correct?
That one on the left side is leaning pretty good.
Okay,
Leaning out.
Those pipes
The
are
one on
leaning
the right
towards the
side
west.
is still pretty decent.
okay,
But those are the original walls, to answer your question, yes.
okay.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
113
For the
years.
time, yeah.
it doesn't look nearly as steep there.
No, it does. I was thinking that too. That's kind of fairly decent.
It's probably because Main Street got raised over time.
Pictures never show grade either.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, your first picture in the slide there, it looked like it was level going out through there, so there's no problem there.
Yeah. Okay.
One more. Okay.
Okay.
And we've talked before, but any further?
I live on Basin Street.
Yeah.
What's that?
I know where you
Oh, yeah, so we're like, we're that pink house, which my
Which one?
husband says, it's salmon, it's not pink. So, the question I have, if you decide to do the route where you're gonna raise the bottom of the hill, I'm just worried about the drainage, because then it's gonna, like, it would like come back into my house, essentially. So is that all gonna be taken care of, so that doesn't happen?
Yeah, so as you come down the hill,
First place
you're
on the
the
right.
first place on the
First
right.
place on the right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So one thing we have to
I
get
mean, I
into
don't
the
know
alter.
what you're gonna choose, but.
Yeah, getting into that, we envision putting like a ditch along the bottom of the slope to pick up before your property and then relay that to where the 30-inch pipe is today.
It's 54.
54,
54 in front of her house.
okay, under the drives.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, to answer your question, no, we're not gonna design a project that's gonna pour water into your house.
That's certainly not the
That's
intention.
not the intention, that's not the goal, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I was told at one time that there was a river that ran under my house, and I said, so if I dig the basement deep enough, I'll have an in-ground pool. It is really damp down there.
We have
If I
anyone
remember,
else?
Chris, if I remember right, what was it, Peter, refresh my memory. Maybe it was the 2008 study, or it was at least the 19 study. We saw 3 different drawings, and one of them was gonna curve the road over towards South Mountain and then go out, actually come out onto the street, up Main Street, somewhere near South Mountain and that area. Do you remember that drawing, Peter?
I don't remember the drawing, but he alluded to it earlier, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
there was a
really-
couple different, there
Is
was
that
one that
because-
kind of comes up and only, when you get to the top, is only 30 feet west of where it is today,
Yeah.
which I haven't looked it up. I know one of my staff has cut the profile and stuff, and I haven't looked at how much that improves it. I doubt it's much, but I think that was actually the preferred alternative in the 2019. Then I do remember seeing one that went way over almost to Hendy's.
Yeah, is that because, is that now out of the so-called top level, first list because of now the drainage under that?
I can't answer that. Yeah, I'm not
And then-
sure.
So this really looks just straight up, steeper down by Kylie's and Jim's,
Mhm.
and then flatten out at the top so you can look both ways before you come out in the street.
That's one option. And then we will look at the
Oh, you
the
will
one
look.
that, yeah, we will look at the one that comes over at least 30 feet. That comes with its own concerns. You do like to have intersection, a 4-way intersection like that with, in this case, Basin Street and Mount Street, nearly across from each other. Now you're pushing it 30 feet down. It's not necessarily recommended, but if it makes it better for Basin
Right.
Street, then,
Safety,
yeah.
I think those other ones, that was one of the most expensive too, to
Yes.
be able to do that.
I do remember
Just because it was changing so much of the infrastructure. You also have that's private property there too. So it's sort of figuring out how to manage that.
And considering the towns owned that at one time.
Right. And there is water drainage down in there, right? I mean, there
Yes.
are concrete
There's two
culverts
different, yeah.
that are being
There's
used.
a concrete sluice.
Right,
Sluice
sluice,
underneath.
right, which is still being used.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's the, yeah.
One of the culverts that crosses Main Street does a deep dive down and
I see.
exits into that sluice way, and the other one exits partially down the hill.
Okay,
And then one on the corner.
And then there's
exits
one
at
on the
top.
corner. Yep.
okay.
There's nothing simple about this project.
And then,
Those would all be tied together.
Well coordinated, yes, yeah. Yep.
Can I ask a question, guys? Was it, in any of these proposals, was there ever any consideration to making it a one-way down and putting a bridge across the pump house road and have the flow go from up above and straight out to South Street? Or would that be more expensive than this?
It doesn't meet Pump House Road there. Pump House Road is probably 300-400 feet down the river. Yeah.
Just a thought.
And that requiring even more state approval.
Yeah.
Yes, in the pond.
Any other questions? Anything else we need to know, Chris, for tonight?
I don't think, well, if you just go back quickly at the next couple steps, I'll reiterate and. Well, I was just bringing that up, like I had mentioned before, the next step is going to be drafting a purpose and need statement, which is another requirement of these federal funds, and we'll send that off to V-Trans for approval, at which time we'll be given the go-ahead to develop a couple of these alternatives and come back to present them with costs.
Chris, have you got any rough idea how long it might take to come up with the various alternatives and then present them?
Let's see. I'd say in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
So probably January, February, something like that, we could be back.
I mean, I hate to say it, but with one of those alternatives, let's say, Kylie brings up a great question, if the hill's getting steeper or higher up out of the ground from her place to get up to make it flat.
No, what they're talking about is making it steeper at the bottom and flattening it out at the
Is the
top.
bottom almost to your place or? a little bit
Yeah,
down?
they're not talking about extending the bottom, Joel. It wouldn't go up.
It would start to steepen just on the north edge, essentially the north edge of your driveway. It would steepen up, earlier, essentially.
So they're looking out their front door, they're looking at a wall now.
No.
Or no?
No.
The drive,
The
it's not
driveway's
gonna
on the
change
north
until
side.
after their house.
Okay.
It may have, depending on
Will be okay to plow snow?
Well, your driveway's to the
North.
house or the
North
south?
end, yeah.
North end of their house. I guess the alternative, if it was so expensive, don't get me wrong, you guys have lived there for years and you have your home, we all have our home. Would it be possibly offer them a buyout and buy the house? Would that change that?
No.
I just bring that up, is that, it's like, we're gonna have $600,000 in this thing, and it might be less if we didn't have to go around this house, so to speak.
Sure.
They think that all the time in highway projects, and
Yep.
we all hate to say, well, we gotta sell our house, but, I mean. we
That's
all
what
can-
we're gonna do when we widen the end of Pine Street. We're gonna take those.
Right ahead.
And I think that's-
Want that sidewalk down through here.
I think that's a, it's quite a jump. I think we need to see,
Yeah, let's see.
you
if
know,
it
you know,
comes back
the
to
three
us.
proposals previous to this, there wasn't any of that.
No,
That
but
wasn't
that
on the
went to
table
the
at all.
right, that went
Right.
toward the south, or
Well, but
west.
there were some that were just sort of doing what Chris is describing. So, yeah, I think that's a little bit, might be a little bit farther down.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I think we could afford to go to the west, going up the hill before we bought a house.
Yeah.
That would be my.
You aren't moving yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry,
The
do it.
kids, they could have my house when I'm gone.
Yeah.
You explain it to me.
Yeah, Joel's not taking your house, okay? Let's just
No, I didn't
put it
mean
like
that.
that.
Okay.
All right.
And if you go back to that picture, which shows in 1935 or 05?
1910.
1910.
Ian, is there a question in the chat, or is that just telling us that it's being recorded? I see it one.
That was Porter saying pool.
That's all right, Valerie.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it is.
Okay, I'm just,
It's in
I lost it.
Okay.
we're just gonna try to get an explanation.
Well, thank you, Chris. Was there any time up you needed to do before we let you go?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
That's great, thank you.
Great,
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll see you in a couple of months or
Yeah.
3 months or so.
Good luck with
Through
this.
into February.
Nice to meet you, Joe.
All right, number 3. Consider the planning commission's upcoming public hearings on proposed bylaw amendments, the select board public hearing, and options for adoption.
Ian, did you say something about or text something about co-host?
Yeah, that's okay, don't worry about it.
Oh, I see. Got it.
All right.
Chris, are you presenting this, or is this, or is this just us?
This is
Yeah, I think it's just us. Hopefully folks had a chance to check out the notes. There are 2 things for the select board to consider tonight. One, letting you know that the planning commission is planning to hold 2 public hearings in November. on the amendments that they are proposing for the bylaw amendments, which cover a lot of different things, but primarily are intended to offer amendments to increase the housing supply in Bristol. And the town received a municipal planning grant with a deadline of the end of this year, December 31st, to get the project done. And if we meet that deadline, then the town is forgiven its 10% required match. So there's some time pressure to do that. And after the planning commission has their public hearings, then the select board by state statute is required to have at least one. And we could aim in December for that. The select board's December meetings are, let's see, what did I say here?
11 and 18.
Yeah, the 11th and the 18th.
We'll probably have a couple more though, because we'll be doing budget.
Will be in budget.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other item that's, so selecting a date for the hearing, the reason why this planning commission wants to know that now, so that they can announce it during their hearing process and inform people of the next steps. But also, one of the changes the legislature did this past year was to amend the state statute to authorize select boards to vote on the bylaw amendments directly, like at a regular public meeting, just like this.
But I think we've always had that opportunity, and we've always chose to let the public make that decision.
Right now in Bristol, voters vote on the town plan and bylaw amendments. Voters needed to vote to do that, or maybe state statute did that automatically, that Bristol qualified as a rural town and so automatically required voter approval rather than select board approval. But the state statute was amended to allow all towns, regardless of whether whether voters previously indicated their intent to vote on such things, the bylaws. I don't think it changed the town plan, but the state statute authorized the select board to adopt the bylaws rather than instead of voter approval. So that's a choice. The planning commission is interested in having the select board decide now which direction you might prefer to go, so that they can also include that in their public information.
When would the vote take place if we met all our
Town meeting.
hearings?
Town meeting.
For voter approval, we would recommend just town meeting.
And that doesn't affect the January 1 deadline?
That's what I
No,
understand.
yeah, Kevin said that they checked with the state and they said that.
Yeah,
As long as they finish this part, they would allow the voting.
Yeah.
So as long as
Town
they have their public meetings and the select board has at least one public meeting.
And
Before.
technically, the select board could even take some sort of, not an official vote, but a vote of endorsement or vote of support for the proposal that's ultimately going to the
I think
voters
that's
in
kind of what
March.
we did the last time, we
Yeah.
threw them
Yeah.
to, moved on to the
Mhm.
vote for the.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the effect is so that they could be more nimble going forward to meet the needs of the community, correct?
I have not seen them yet, so if Chris
They
wants
should
to
be
chime
doing,
in on that.
they should be doing a memo of the changes, right, Chris?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
must be
mean,
working on that.
I mean, the primary thing that they focused on was the village planning area, which is predominantly the previous village area, and increasing density and housing opportunities within that area. As a matter of fact, that was the charge of Adam, our consultant, to focus on that area.
Thank you.
So Val, you're recommending that we do 2 meetings for select board?
That's what I would recommend.
Okay.
The December 11th one, I think, would be the one with the more substance and going to all the whatever kind of presentations might be available. And there's a lot of whatever discussion can be had, and then the 18th would be kind of follow-up, and I would recommend that on the 18th is when the select board would take any final
I
action.
mean, the only thing you've got to keep in mind is that if there are any changes made,
That's what I was just gonna
there's
ask.
a time frame of when they have to then redo the meetings and whatever. So you need to make sure we get
Right.
that done by the end of December.
You can't make any changes, substantive changes without having all the hearings
It's
again,
all
I
over
believe.
again.
Right.
Which is what happened the last time we did this.
Okay.
They had some substantive changes and we had to redo.
Well, you just said your office is busy right now, right? So
I am, yeah.
we'd want to,
So perhaps a challenge then for the select board would be to review the drafts closely that the planning commission is having hearings on, so that you can get a sense then if any changes might be suggested.
So
Do
what
they,
if,
do
what
they
if
have
they
like a
have,
red line version of what the changes are?
They have one more meeting tomorrow night, and then after tomorrow night, they should have the finalized red line version that could be, pushed out as
Shipped
what
to
the
us.
goal is
Yeah.
right now.
so what if they have their hearing and they raise the roof and they decide they wanna make changes? Does that postpone everything, or you don't think, do you
Changes the
think they'll push
timeframe.
forward?
I don't have an answer on that, I really don't.
What's your gut feeling?
My gut is it's gonna be fine. And there's big changes, but it's not, the whole document wasn't changed again.
Right.
They focused on increasing, the biggest thing they did was they increased density in the high-density residential and the village mixed areas, basically doubled the amount of houses that could potentially go in those areas. We still are very limited by septic in those areas, so it's not like you're gonna see every lot in this town end up with 4 houses on it. You still have to have a place to put all the septics, so. It's some good work, they worked hard, it's so far, and then tomorrow night they've got some other final
Yeah,
touches.
it's limited changes.
How long have they been working on this? How many
Years?
months?
Over a year now?
Yeah.
How much public engagement at meetings for?
0.
Okay.
And you won't have too many here.
Right, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's why this is the opportunity to do that, to have that,
Yeah.
have the 2 public hearings with the final document and allow the select board to also showcase that as well, so.
It's like anything else we do, until it hits a nerve,
Yeah.
you know, you won't see anybody here until it hits a nerve, and then they'll come in.
Could we have an extra meeting, and, because I see we're meeting on the 11th and 18th, because 25th is holidays, could we do it, because we're gonna be in budget, starting budget, could we do a 4th, 11th and 18th, and do the 4th and the 11th on this planning thing? And then if we had to go one more, we could be the 18th to finalize it?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Thinking
The
because
18th would be the ultimate cutoff. and hopefully
18th be
nothing
cut off, you gotta,
changes.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, what about that now, 4th and the 11th?
That just means we're coming to one more meeting.
Yeah.
That we wouldn't normally come to, so.
Well, we're gonna,
We'll be in
with
budget
budget,
time
we'll
anyway,
be
won't we?
doing, we typically do every Monday that.
It's usually in January.
No,
Not
January,
December.
January is too late to start that.
Yes. And we were behind this
Yeah.
last year.
Yes.
Just a suggestion.
I mean,
So we-
I'm fine with
And I
that.
don't think that's gonna,
Yeah.
it won't impact.
No, I'm fine with
Even
that.
if we're budget meeting, that's not gonna impact that meeting that much, I don't think.
Right.
It's just another opportunity.
So
Yeah.
I'm hearing 4th, 11th, and 18th?
No, the
Just
18th would
4th
be in case.
Yeah.
In case, we do instead of the
We
11th and
meet, yes,
18th,
you're hearing the 4th, the 11th, and the 18th, you're
we go
correct.
3 meetings.
That's what the meetings would, yes.
But we do the 4th and the 11th for the planning commission stuff,
The hearings.
hearings.
Does there have to be a certain amount of time between the first hearing and the second?
No, you can, in
Okay.
fact, well, not necessarily, they can be Monday and a Tuesday.
Yeah.
But we just need to make sure it's properly noticed.
Yeah.
And I like to include all dates in a single notice.
Yeah, so 4th and 11th, to have that particular meeting highlight this.
And the PC will have it, it's November 7th and November 21st.
Yeah. So that's our 4 meetings, and then if we needed to use the 18th, for some reason, we could put that as a 3rd one for the select board, but I don't think we'd need that. If
We're only
Right.
required 2, if
Oh,
there's
that's true,
changes, it has to go back.
Back.
Oh, that's,
Yeah,
yeah.
Start the numbering all over.
Yeah.
Start the time
Be
frame.
warned.
All right,
And
4th
we'll-
and 11th.
And we won't be done by December 31st if
No.
that happens.
Right.
Right. So 4th and the 11th.
Yeah.
Okay. And a question mark on the 18th.
And given the S100 changes, the select board is still interested in having the public vote on this,
Oh,
correct?
absolutely.
I believe
That's
it's,
the
I've
only way
heard
we
it's
force them to
also,
read it.
I've also, it's my understanding that
Is there
that's
one?
also the pulse of the planning commission.
Okay,
I mean, that's my feeling anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't wanna,
I don't want them
I-
coming
I-
back and saying, well, you made a decision
Right.
and we know nothing about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Public input is good.
I would rather have them. take
I mean,
time
that'll
to
still
read it.
happen even if it's voted on by the public,
Right.
but,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay,
Okay, do we need to, we don't need to vote on that?
I don't think so.
Doesn't feel like we do.
Consensus.
consensus,
Consensus, okay.
perfect. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. So number 4, Water Commission, consider Lawson Lane water connection to Pine Street, proposed financing and construction agreement and next steps.
Put on your water commission hats.
Put on the water commission hats, yes.
Nice.
So hopefully folks had a chance to check out the notes. This is on tonight's agenda for two reasons. We have a window that the Lawson Lane property owners have a window of opportunity, and I guess we do too, to engage in, enter into a contract with Munson, contract amendment, to install the water line down Lawson Lane, as we began to talk about at the last meeting. And they provided a quote. They provided a quote earlier, and they provided a revised quote. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's a little bit less, some adjustments, but it's in the ballpark of $24,000. And they can do that now while they're mobilized. If they need to come back and do it at a later time, it would be an additional $1,000 for the mobilization. So there are two parts to this. If the Water Commission chooses to go in this direction, then the other part of tonight's meeting is to consider this this construction easement and this draft construction easement and financial agreement document that is a work in progress draft to outline the parameters for the town's involvement in this project and the responsibilities of the property owners to pay the expenses back. And this document proposes that it be done proportionally. And so, as I mentioned, this document, it's a work in progress, so if the town does go in this direction, it would need to be tidied up and details filled in and refined, but I don't expect that the substance of it, the concept of it, would change dramatically. Just the other part is that, as pointed out in some of the information, and that the key information in that 2014 easement document that the property owners signed, it does include a stipulation that within 60 days or some period of time, after the Pine Street water line is completed, which is next week, or this week even, well, next week, because it's still surface area stuff, but pretty darn close, that the property owners need to connect, they're required to connect, although there is no specific consequence if they don't, other than not having a clean title. It also says that they're responsible for paying for the cost of doing it, of the new connection. So those two things are the basis for this agreement, and it's unclear from the records what role the town had, the Water Commission at that time. I don't know that the Water Commission existed at that time, because they did not have a role in approving connections to the water system back in 2004 and 2005. So it's unclear what role the town actually played in allowing that, what I call a deception, to occur. So that's.
Yeah, I think back then, there was a water foreman.
Right.
And I think he took care of all the.
Well, I wonder, maybe, as we've found in recent years, events in Bristol, since I've been on board, where a property owner contacted a contractor to fix a water line, and in some instances, they replaced the whole water line and dug up the road and made no contact with the town. Didn't know about it, they just did it. So that raised a lot of concern to the Select Board and Water Commission at the time, and we amended the ordinance to have specific procedures in place for repairs and notification and that kind of thing, because some materials were being installed, if we recall, that weren't approved, but they're in the ground already, and they already somehow made a connection to the water line without any approval. So given that happened in recent time, could that have happened back then? Could that have happened on the Pine Street situation that we encountered over the weekend with the line that nobody knew about? Because did it just happen some night, some day? We just don't know. So that's the basic framework for tonight.
I mean, I think that key part of this is that agreement, paragraph 3 that you've highlighted in your report, which is the sole expense of the lot owners. You know.
The other thing, I apologize for interrupting, the other thing is that the agreement, because of the way the curb stop has been installed on Pine Street, it's outside of the road, so when the road gets buttoned up with pavement and that kind of stuff, the connection can be made at any time.
Right.
And so the pressure, the time pressure in this instance is whether to take advantage of this window of opportunity with Munson. And if so, do we proceed, does the Water Commission Select Board agree with this approach? You might have a completely different idea. This was based upon the situations that we had with the Stony Hill Business Park and the flood recovery situations where the town was required by grant funding to do the work on private property. And we had an agreement like this in place that kind of authorized the town to do the work on private property and would get reimbursed for that expense. So, so in other words, this isn't the only option. The property owners have other options if they choose to use them. It's just, it would be a different timeline and a different, and in that instance, the town wouldn't need to be involved at all. Radio silence.
Well, I'm just trying to think, you know, we're pushing November, 60 days is December, the ground's froze. I don't know, have you, any of you looked into hiring somebody to do it, to see what a cost was?
We were looking into it, but we approached the town first.
I'm curious as to what your feelings is with this number.
Since we're talking, and I just, not throwing blame or whatever, but the town did dig the hole to access for all the water lines to tie into the main on Liberty Street. Cale Pellin dug it, and he told me personally that he had done it. And he remembered doing it, and it's that square that's cut out that's right there right now. So it was dug, and the access was dug by the town of Bristol.
The access where the water shutoffs are.
Where they are now.
Yeah.
The incorrect spot.
Which they would have had to do.
Yeah.
To connect it to the main line, the town would have had to do it.
Okay.
I think Scott was still the water
He was.
foreman at that time.
Scott Powell.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember making any decisions as far as connections when he was in charge of the water system. I think that is all, since
Right.
we hire somebody to do that is when all that changed.
Yeah. Well, I looked at the select board minutes back at that time, and there's nothing in the record, no, of anything,
Nothing
any
came to the
kinds of
board.
water determinations from the select board.
Well, what's in the records, it looks like it's under Lawson Lane connecting to Pine Street,
As a curb
which
cut,
is,
yeah,
right.
the driveway access,
but it's not.
but not the water stuff.
Anyhow, you know, I think you're correct in saying, like, we were deceived in all of this. You know, we had a purchase and sales agreement, we bought the lots, and then after we bought the lots, the developer's responsibility was to install the utilities, including the water lines and the road, and he put them in the wrong. You know, I think he probably got bad information from the town on what the water service was on Pine Street, and when they broke ground to connect, found, well, this isn't gonna work, and then they moved it all to Liberty Street, put it in the ground, buried it, covered it up, and we were none the wiser. So now, what are we, 17 years later or something like that, we're stuck fixing this, and
I seem to recall that when it happened, I remember Scott saying that the line going down Pine Street wouldn't accommodate those lines, and he made the decision to switch it, is what I recall, because I recall the lines were supposed to come off of Pine Street, and they did.
There's many problems that have come with that for us. I mean, we have no easements for the lines that are existing in the ground until someone else had bought a lot and wanted to build, but couldn't because they weren't in compliance with Act 250 because the lines that were in the ground are not supposed to be there. So that 2014, now we're 10 years after this all happened, we create those amended covenants to, so that we could have easements for our existing lines that are in the wrong spots and have some potential solution that should the Pine Street line ever get improved, which now has happened, they'd be able to build on that line. So that's how that document was created and got signed, and now that's happened, which, I want to see everything get put in compliance, and I'd love to not have these water lines going through the full length of my lot that aren't supposed to be there, that make my, Act 250 permit not be in compliance, and, probably would be an issue if we went to sell the house, that's, that is what it is, so I'd love to see it corrected, but, and I really want the town's help with this. And when we were here last meeting, I really appreciate the work that Valerie put into this to reach out and get a bid and create this document. But we also left that meeting feeling like we're gonna reach out to Munson, see what it would cost. I thought that was to get a number for the town to consider assisting us with putting in the 2-inch main, and then we would go the last step to connect our single lines, our 1-inch lines to that main that would come down Lawson Lane. But this document and the bid from Munson's, it's over $24,000. It doesn't even complete our hookups. It's just the 2-inch main. And then we gotta go.
The new one that I got on Friday, which I have not had any time to forward to you, and I apologize, I didn't even look at it until this afternoon, is less than that. It's 23.3, and it's soup to nuts.
So that
includes their connections too?
That would
Soup to
connect,
nuts, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Because
soup to
what I
nuts.
don't want is.
Sounds like a deal.
No,
I have to hire somebody
We're
else
really
to come
breaking
in,
the
yeah.
bank to spend $24,000 to have, 200 feet of copper put in the ground, and we still got,
40 feet away from your house.
Yeah, 40 more feet to go, and another excavator to hire to come and do it, like, that's thousands more, I don't know, you know something about excavation, Pete, or is
A
that
little
a
bit.
good bid? That seems expensive.
So Munson's 23 is to put in the 2-inch main and connect each of the houses.
yeah,
And put everything
That's
back.
new.
yeah,
Okay, that's new
That's-
information
I
to
know.
us,
Right.
because when I look at what's in this document and
right.
their bid, where you look at what it says, the scope of the work, it doesn't.
Right, so where did the new one come from? Given that it was, the first one was more expensive, and it didn't seem like it was only doing one section of the work.
Somebody must have taken a
How does
closer look at
a
it.
new bid come in that's less, that does all the work?
Steve Palmer reached out to Nick at Munson, and they came up with an updated plan.
Okay.
If I could add, Jill and Steve actually walked the property and actually put eyes on it and actually measured things.
Okay.
And
Hey, we actually did before, however, we made a change to just go to 175 and they'll just take a 3/4 to the last house to shorten the 2-inch, because that was where your cost was.
Okay, because we haven't seen the document, but yep, perfect. But in any case, I appreciate it, you guys actually going out there and putting eyes on it where the water actually comes into the houses and everything else.
Bear with me here.
Hey, Valerie, did you, in all the correspondence here, something that the homeowners, and I remember when these all went in, living over in that section of town, signed a document that knew that once the new line went up Pine Street, you would have to tie in at your cost. You signed
We
something
did that in 2014.
2014, yeah.
when you bought the property?
Nope.
No, that was
This is 10
after.
years
It was after
No,
they found out the lines weren't in compliance.
We were never informed, so it was
I thought it was
sometime
under-
around 2010,
I thought it was under
2011,
your
Chad
touch
and
and-
Michelle
after-
bought the
before
lot
you
in
did.
front of us, we're gonna build, applied to Act 250. And when they learned of the lines
The
on the
lines
ground
were-
that shouldn't be,
The plans that were presented to
Chad
us
and
when we
Michelle-
bought the house in 2007 have the water line running along Lawson Lane and tying in on Pine Street. And was never informed that it was not the case.
until 2014, when Chad and Michelle
Bought the property.
bought the property.
I was the easements.
And
That's why there's a little bit of tension, because
And we signed that because it was discovered that we did not have easements for our own water lines. So Michelle and Chad worked very hard, along with the rest of us, to grant us easements temporarily until the Pine Street water line
Was really to come up with solutions so that the properties would be technically in compliance, so that if somebody went to sell, they would
They
be able to
could.
sell.
Right, no, I get that, but I was under the impression that when they bought it from Bruce, bought the whole.
Nope.
No, nobody
He
knows.
failed to mention that.
He failed to mention Okay. Because I believe if you did, you might have reason to go after your title insurance company, who gave you
I
title
reached
insurance.
out to my title insurance company, they wouldn't cover me because at the time I purchased it, those lines weren't in the
Weren't in
ground.
ground.
Bruce
Nothing
would
was
have
in the
been
ground.
after I sold the lot. After he'd sold it to me and I bought it and I was now the owner, he then, because it was his obligation to install the roadway and all the utilities, which he did, but he did it after he sold me the lot.
Is that the same way with you guys too?
So the title insurance wouldn't cover it.
No, our house was complete when we bought it, but our title insurance, was on the original loan, which is, we refinanced.
We just have title insurance on the mortgage, not on not as owners. You didn't have an owner's policy, you just had a loan policy.
Correct.
So what's looking at this new bid, if this is everything,
Okay, three cover services.
what's
So
the,
it's the 2-inch line going down and then 3/4 inch from the curb things.
Curb stop
Yeah,
Three corporations.
to the water services, yeah.
and what would be, what's the town's responsibility then? If that's a direction we're looking at, out of that 23, is it the 11,880? Is that essentially what it is, or is it?
No, it's actually nothing of it, none of it.
Town's not really on the hook for this,
No, I know,
yeah.
but we're discussing, we're presenting different options.
Well, if you wanna split it 4 ways,
Well, that's what I'm,
$5,800.
Right.
A landowner. Well, a landowner plus the town.
right, and this is the water district, if we went in that direction, would be paying for that. So it's the water district payers that are paying that.
Can you do that?
I don't know.
Can we do what, Jill?
Can you pay for a private property with water district funds?
That's right.
question. I
Yeah.
don't know the answer.
I would say probably not. We can offer
Revolving
payment plan, that an interest-free payment plan. We could do that. To answer your question about the number, I have been out of the site work portion of so long that all these numbers drive me nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, they're it's been 15 years since I did site work, so.
I also just know, I'm not an expert on this, but I know Munson's a big outfit. They're just finishing up a very big job that was a grant-funded job, a bond job. This might not be, I don't know, maybe they don't really want the job, so they gave a really high bid and see if we take it.
Jill, how do these numbers look for what you're seeing when you're doing services?
Just maybe like 10% higher than what you'd probably see. Like there's probably only $1,000 or $2,000 of wiggle room there, because a big portion of this job is there's over $8,000 of materials on this job, almost maybe 9.
I guess another thing, just about as far as the details of the bid from Munson, like they've got $4,600 of gravel there. That seems like a lot to me. Like, what if they don't use $4,600?
I don't think they've used $4,600.
Is this a to not exceed?
I did not have a chance to follow up with that question.
I only see $1,600 worth of gravel there.
Oh, so that must have come
Yeah.
down, because in the previous one, it was $4,600
Yeah,
a gravel.
1675 is what it is now.
So
I think they
just-
thought they were laying the water line in the road. They're putting it in the grass. And then they only have to take a left when they get to those power boxes to get over to the last house.
Okay.
And that's
And
when they
this-
switched to 3/4.
And this is a sketch that Steve drew out this afternoon, like an hour before this meeting started. So I mean, that's how this stuff is pretty hot off the press.
And Jill, do they know that what's in the ground already is 1 inch, not 3/4? So if they're gonna couple at some point to what's already in the ground?
Did you measure outside or inside?
They do know that to go to 1 inch would cost you guys probably another $1,000 because it would be 1 inch tees, it would be 1 inch curbs, it would be 1 inch couplings.
Right. But is it, I mean, does it work okay to have like a, you know, a 3/4 inch tee and then run 30, 40 feet of 3/4 inch and then have it expand to 1 inch?
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably ran 1 inch services because it was such a long run.
Yeah.
Normal house services in Bristol are 3/4 services. The 1 inch is when you have like an apartment building or a very large house or a long run.
Slide down a little.
Or
My
you know,
view was a long
3
run. It's
trailers, daisy chained together.
Go the other way. Go on. Jill, a question where it says right over in the right-hand corner, the word street has a tree there. That's where the 3 curb stops are presently in.
Yeah, they run right up that
They
line.
run right up that line. So is this bid, that 2 inches is ending somewhere where all the blue is there? Can they tie in the 2 inch with a curb stop right there to the Mounts house and the Gorton's house? Because they're going right by with the new copper going to those homes.
Well, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not running, you said they're gonna run lines, so they're,
They're
Well,
gonna
they're
run
running
2
a-
inch
they're-
at
this is-
170 feet, 180 feet, and
So
then
they're
do
gonna
the
tie-
rest on 3/4 inch.
because I don't know where just
Right.
Dustin's comes from, then it must turn in, so.
That's
My
why there's $850 for that locating person because it's all on private property and there's a ton of buried power on that corner.
Mhm.
So they're gonna need to really like pinpoint locate each water line so it's intercepted perfectly. They're gonna need to pinpoint where the power is so that it's completely avoided and where any septic stuff is. So it's completely avoided, which it shouldn't be anywhere near any of this.
They
and
should be
anything
able to,
else.
So are they?
depending on where your water line comes, their 1 inch lines run all the way to their house. They should be able to tie into,
That's what I
Right
was
from
just
they
that-
should be
gonna
able to
ask.
tie in
Your
and
current line
backfeed.
that's there, can they tie
I
into
know, I
that?
know where they are, because when I built my garage, I had to have all this located, so I don't know, do we have one of those pointer things?
No,
No,
we're not high tech.
This might work. Is this on the pointer?
No.
Wiggle it around, sometimes that's like the pointer.
Can I just stand up here?
Sure.
Yeah, wiggle, you sure can.
So they go,
Just watch all the cords.
I mean,
sometimes.
there's 4 lines
Yeah.
that start here, go across Deb's lot, go across theirs, and then there's, you know, one of them sweeps to this house.
Right, to Pat.
Right, and they've already
It used to be
replaced that.
Patricia's, yeah.
Then they continue and they just nick the
Corner,
corner
yep.
of this lot. And then they come down on this is my lot here, lot 5. Now there's 3 lines that are continuing on my side of the property line, straight down. Oops, sorry.
Can you?
And then
mouse
my,
where he's pointing to Jill
my
can see?
line does a 90-degree sweep and comes straight in to this corner of my house, but my house is actually probably more this way than that. That's just like a build envelope.
Right,
My
right.
house is not that big.
Right.
It sweeps 90 degrees and
Jen
comes
wanted it
straight
that
into
big.
mine. Okay, and then the 2 other lines continue straight, pretty much right where this T is. They continue straight. And then the Gorton sweeps 90 degrees, it comes straight into this corner of their house. And the Mounts sweeps straight through this. So like there's that above ground where the the power and the communications and the
Is that the vault?
yeah, where the cable come above ground here, it comes this side of it and then sweeps into
To the back
somewhere
side of
on
the
the
house.
south end of the house. I think this corner
Back to the
actually.
back, southwest.
Yeah, because it kind of keeps going this way and then goes sweeps at some point into this corner.
So they should be able to
Mounts.
come up with a 2-inch line and then connect into all
Well,
of
see,
the
there's, I
existing lines.
mean, the 2-inch, if the 2-inch is going to here,
Mhm.
it is practically at the Gorton's line and the Mounts line.
Right.
My line, we would need a line to come to where it sweeps
Sweeps
around
in,
here.
yeah,
So
that-
No, you
it's,
could-
it's not that far into
You
my
could
lot.
dig that
It's more like
intersection and
here
hook,
in my lot.
hook two of those back, hook one of those back.
So I mean, to minimize the amount you're digging up people's lawns, it'd be a lot better if you did the connection. I mean, it almost entirely happens in what is the driveway
Right.
area, where
Right.
the T is in the driveway.
Mhm.
Mine might go just slightly, it's right around where my basketball hoop is, if you've been at my house recently, where my basketball hoop above ground is, it's right around there is probably where the sweep is. I felt like a basketball hoop at the end of this tee.
Okay, so it sounds like
That's where they are.
there could be some more savings for you.
But
guys.
there is also power, like, my, because when I built the garage, everything had to be located. I had to, where I put the garage is like literally the only place you could fit it, because of where the power and the water lines are. The power is here, and it comes, my power and cable and, all three utilities kind of do 90 degrees, and then they come in. They're like, my water line sweeps this way, and all my other utilities sweep this way, 90 degrees right around the garage. And you can see at the end of the house where like my power meter is, that's where they all come straight in.
Jill, would it be feasible to just find his line and one of those other lines and backfeed him as opposed to digging all that? He's saying the lines all run together right up through to about where the power pedestal is.
That's where the 175 feet of 2 inches going.
Right, but would it be necessary to dig all his up if they hooked into one of those 1-inch lines and backfed and just found that 1-inch line at where they separate there and connect them there?
I just don't know, where would all the curbs go?
I don't know.
No, don't backfeed
I
it,
think
nothing.
the weird thing is that the.
Well, you
curbs
wouldn't be
end up in-
backfeeding, Si, it'd just be tying you'd be using one of the lines that went to the other house and tying his line back to.
That's what you would do
Yeah.
anyway. You'd intersect his line and you connect it from that 2-inch. Wouldn't backfeed nothing.
I mean, they're supposed to
No,
be
no.
intercepting those 1-inch lines on in
What's
each
that?
case. They're supposed to be intercepting those existing services in each case.
Right,
So
but
they're
his
not putting it
doesn't,
in all- all
his
the
doesn't
service.
come all the way. His
Right.
sweeps off. So what I'm saying is take one of the ones that comes all the way and tie into that and go back and find it where it sweeps and connects it. You'd be
You
eliminating.
have 2 connections in one line and that's
I had that same
2 spots
thought.
for failure.
You got several lines in there.
Say it again, Si?
I said, then you have 2 connections in that one line and you have 2 spots for failure.
Yeah.
I
And how do
mean,
you meet with that?
if you want to pay for that, that would be all right, but I wouldn't want to pay for that. I wouldn't want to pay for 2 spots for it to fail. I'd rather pay for 1 spot for it to fail.
I'd rather not pay for it to fail at all.
Well, you can't say that because nothing's perfect.
No,
No,
I
just-
totally agree.
I was wishing that the that infrastructure worked differently and they could just be yanked over to where they need to go. There's all kinds of copper in the ground, it's just in the wrong
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, they all intersect right there too, that's,
well, 2 of them intersect there.
Right.
no, they
Dustin-
all
Dustin's-
intersect back where his sweeps off.
All 3 of them are right.
Oh,
where
I see what
two
you're saying.
spots
They're all
in
the
this
same.
Yep, they
So-
all sweep right at that same corner. Dustin's takes the first, like if you're the water line coming from Liberty, the
Yeah,
water
Yeah.
lines, all 3 are hanging out together. They're
Right.
running right along. His takes a sharp left into his house. The next
other-
one goes another 30 feet, takes a sharp left into the house that's at next to him. And then it takes a right and it goes to the Mounts house.
yeah, I mean, that's what I was
Pretty
saying, if you found that first intersection and were able to find enough pipe, it'd just be one coupling.
Oh, you're thinking.
If you can see exactly where they all are and paint it all out, it's just like, this is why there was that.
I know, I get
This is
it.
why there was that question, like, is it does it make sense for them to do it now, or does it make sense for them to have more of a sophisticated approach of, are there different ways to approach this? Are there different contractors they want to ask to approach it? You know, I don't know how real or fictitious the time frame is, or what they want to do.
I mean, the time frame has no penalty, is that correct?
Not to
No
my knowledge.
monetary penalty
There's no
unless we're trying to
penalty.
sell a house.
Okay. Right.
Is anybody
I mean,
planning on
so
selling a house real
honestly,
quick?
I didn't hear what Si said.
What did you say, Si?
So that you're planning on
Is
selling.
anybody planning on selling a house real quick, like within the next 6 to year? 6 months to a year?
I have the option if I wanted to. I mean,
That's just it.
Yeah.
Things happen in people's lives, and I've seen it happen. I
Right.
was a life insurance agent. I mean, things happen quickly.
Right.
ultimately, Whitney and her husband would have to really enforce it. I mean, because they're the owner of that, well, Whitney and Deb are the owners of where the lines go across.
Right.
You got a lot of people's property that's impacted by these lines that are.
But theirs is at the beginning of that water line. You
To
know,
be
that's just
honest,
insane.
we really just want to make this right. We
Mhm.
want
Right.
it,
Oh,
we
no,
want it to be like it's supposed to be.
Of course.
And get it done. and
We
get
would
it
have loved to have
out
had
over
the
our heads.
developer and the engineer do it back in the day. They'd have done it right.
Well, there again, I think it was a back to Scott saying that he didn't think that water line would support it, so he.
No, he knew the water line wouldn't support it, because they said the price to upgrade that line was gonna be $30K.
That would have been cheap. That would have been pretty inexpensive, considering that that was like a fifth of this water line project, and that was a lot more than 30K.
Come on, that was way back when, Jill.
All right, so where do we go from here?
Well, I guess it's a matter of, do they want Munson to do it now at that price?
And
And
is
then-
this town, the water commission, willing to participate in some way? And I proposed this agreement just because it's something we've worked with before.
Will Bill have to get an agreement? Because if the shut-offs are at the end of, it looks
So
like they're
right
just
away.
Yeah, they have.
at the end of the right of way or in Jackie's, then the swing to get into Jackie's thing, will he have to get a right of way?
No, they have,
No.
He already
they
has,
have easements for utilities in the roadway.
Yeah, the utility junction is already right there.
There's a 35-foot wide right of way where Lawson Lane is. Lawson Lane's like 12 feet wide. The right of way for all
It
the
should be
utilities
20.
where
It
is
should be 20 feet
is
wide.
35 feet. It's shown at
it's supposed to be 50 now.
map. So the water lines, when they install it, it's gotta be in that right of way.
Okay.
But is it,
There should be plenty of
but
space.
if we put the connection there to get to Bill's house,
But let's try to
It's
stay
in
on
the, it's in the
track.
right of way,
Let's
it
try to
doesn't
stay on track,
matter.
and we're not
Yeah.
gonna solve how it's gonna get set up
No.
tonight.
We have to-
So let's talk about
Yeah.
what's in front of us, which is, as the water commission, what are we thinking our participation
Well,
may or may not be?
I think ultimately it's up to those guys what direction they're gonna go before we can decide what we're gonna do. I mean, if they wanna get other bids and options, that may take us right out of the loop.
Well, this question keeps being asked, and we keep saying, yes, we'd like to go forward. And so we're here, we sent emails to that effect, yes, we would like to go forward. The only thing was the final number with the tie-in was the only thing we were waiting on. Well, now that we have that, I don't really want to speak for anybody, but I think I can. We want to get it done. We want it out of the way. We want to quit worrying about it.
Yeah. Understood.
So I think our involvement in this would be a payment plan with no interest, is what I see we can do without
approval from the
well, without putting it on other water users.
Right, and if they can't actually do a private project under the guise of the water commission, then the town doesn't have any available, option to
And I think
pay.
they wanna know-
Other than to do a
payment plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Is
they
that-
want to know
is that-
the length of that.
Excuse me, Joe?
What was
Is the
that?
length
Say it
of
again,
that
Jill?
payment plan 6 months, or might it be longer?
It'd have to be longer than that.
I would think that, well, it would depend on what they're comfortable
Could be
with.
10 years. Well, if they're splitting it 3 ways,
Right.
you're talking $8,000, right?
But if they get a.
I mean, that's entirely up to them.
Right.
That's something that they would, I mean, it may not even be an issue. I don't know, but we would make the offer.
But if that's the case, though, we have to enter into this agreement if the
Yes.
town's
Yes.
gonna foot the initial bill. And as currently drafted, this proposes a 6-month window after which a lien would be placed on the properties. It's like a tax lien,
A 6 months to pay it back,
correct? Right.
that's steep.
Yeah, that
That's
feels,
that's what we did for
$7,700.
the other ones. So I just use that model. I
That's
mean, it's,
not
everything's
expensive.
up for adjustment.
Sure.
I mean, that's $1,200, almost $1,300 a month.
yeah, that feels like a lot.
So what would the board be comfortable with? Like a year or 2 years?
5, the revolving loan fund
I'm thinking
loans tend to be
5
5.
myself.
Yeah.
5 years? Sorry, what was that? Revolving loan
So-
fund?
But the revolving loan fund is gonna be
Charge interest.
interest bearing.
I mean, they can choose, we can direct them to choose at 0% interest. Well, it's ultimately the select board's decision.
Right.
Even if the revolving loan committee makes a recommendation for a certain percentage and terms, the select board can do something different.
Right.
Could it
They're
be a
advisory.
different term for?
It could be different for each of you, yes.
Right.
of each of
Yes,
the-
that's why I said, I don't want, we're not here to get into your finances, I'm not here to make a decision for you, but we need to make it so that it's
I appreciate that.
Affordable.
affordable, yeah.
Right.
And what's affordable for you may not be for Bill or vice versa, you know, so that's where
Really appreciate
I'm trying to err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
So we have the proposal, the 23, and
And I
change.
don't know if it's, I don't know yet, if it's a not to exceed or a lump sum offer. I don't know yet.
So we need to ask that question.
So that's worst case then,
Yes,
23.8
yeah.
or whatever.
And the other thing that's not in this proposed agreement is, I think I started to try to do it, but I didn't quite achieve it. Some sort of additional, like, other, like legal expenses, if there are legal expenses, that gets kind of wrapped into the final number. And I don't know if there will be, so just kind of whatever other, in addition to that quote, if there are any other odds and ends or expenses, that it just kind of gets rolled into the bottom line.
Legal expenses that the town and.
Well, like, for example, if these need to be recorded, they're $15 a page, that kind of thing. Or other kinds of, if there is a loan.
If they go through the revolving loan fund, there might be attorney's fees.
Yeah,
They would be responsible.
that would be built into the loan amount.
Right.
But it wouldn't be a large number.
Yeah, it would not be a large number.
Now, I mean, I don't have a copy of their more recent adjusted bid, but in the original bid, it says 15% OH/P, it's $3,000.
Overhead,
What is
profit, overhead and profit.
that? Okay, so that's what Munson's making.
That's their wiggle room.
That's what they make.
They're making a lot.
Okay, so what's the next stage then?
The next stage is to have them decide if they're agreeable with what we're offering and
Then we'd have to
Right.
finalize the
And-
agreement
right.
and
So with
figure
the,
out how they
Well-
wanna deal with it.
Because of the window with Munson right now, if the select board and the folks want to do this, to pull the trigger on an agreement with Munson now, with the expectation that we'll work out the logistics so that it can move forward, even though if we don't have final documents. We have an understanding of what the concept is. And if everybody agrees and kind of commits to the concept with some tweaks, then I think it would be part of the record. The select board could approve the quote and set months and weeks on it. Sooner rather than later.
I was gonna ask you guys, have you talked to Jackie? I mean, is he on board with this?
He told us in a text that they're homesick tonight. I would not want to speak for
Okay.
them, but all three households as of last week were in agreement that having the town be the managers of this project with us reimbursing you was what we wanted to move forward with.
Okay.
And is up to 5 years acceptable? Or is it?
It is for us, but I don't want to.
I'm sending them a text right now, hopefully I'll have an answer in just a second.
Yeah, I would say, the longer the term to pay it back, probably the better.
Agreed.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any penalty for early payment either,
Right.
so.
Or you think of the payment plan through the water district itself, not going through the revolving
Well,
fund?
Either way.
Yeah, there'd need to be some form of loan documents drawn
Yeah.
up, so there would be some legal expenses.
What have we
there.
done, Sharon, what do we do when you make arrangements for,
A large bill.
well, I know we've done it in the past where there've been, one that comes to mind is Blaze's Trailer Park, where they had thousands of dollars in water,
Still there.
and we did a payment plan. You probably weren't here for that, or were you?
Well, no, they owe a lot of, right now, and they have been paying since he passed away, so. But the line that we did for Stein, which was, about $3,800, she's making payments of $100 a month. And we just do a one-page letter that she signed saying she's gonna pay $100 a month until it's paid off. So it's sort of like what we do with people who are behind on their taxes. We do that same kind of thing. They make an agreement, I can afford this much to try and catch up.
So in other words, it's in the form of a letter that people sign. and
Yeah, it's
that-
just one page.
It's not the full-blown loan document process
No.
that Kevin Brennan would be involved
No.
in.
It's not,
Okay.
not like what we do for the revolving loan fund.
Right.
We would prefer something that does not
That
incur
doesn't
more
incur-
fees.
Of course.
If we're signing a letter and
Yeah.
if, whatever would.
We'd still have the option to file a lien if they decided to stop paying or whatever.
I think that's the key, if you know.
And that should be put
And
in
obviously,
whatever
if you
letter
went
you
to,
sign.
if you went to sell, that would have to be settled, which is not a big deal
Right.
at that point.
Just like any contractor that comes in and somebody owes them money, they put a lien,
Mechanics lien on.
land records, and then when people sell.
Yeah, well, they have so many days to perfect that, so
Yeah.
if they don't perfect it, then it's.
No, but we have a few of them that do that,
Yeah.
like Jackman's
Yep.
and a couple
Mhm.
contractors
Yeah.
we've had come in and.
That's fine when you know they're gonna be refinancing or something, or then you know you're gonna
Right,
pay.
or you know they're selling their house,
Right.
they're refusing to pay it.
So what's the rest of, I'm okay with doing it through the water department if the money is there. I don't know what's the rest of the,
It seems like.
I think the easier the better. You're willing to, you're not coming in here hollering and screaming, we're not gonna do this. Which helps us. That's.
If the
And
money's there and it's not an issue, I mean, that's different from what Jill was talking about, correct? Having the,
Well, they pay for it, but they're gonna pay back.
okay.
It's an initial, basically it's a loan.
Right.
Okay.
Interest rate.
Yes.
Would that go on as an expense of the water department, or would that go on as a capital and use the capital plan?
It would be the capital plan, the capital fund.
And then so the loan would be against the capital fund and get paid back to the capital fund?
Because it's certainly,
Yes.
yes, because it's certainly a capital expense.
Yeah.
Jill is thinking about her budget.
I know, I was like, oh my God, it's gonna kill it.
She's not the only one.
Sai is also thinking about the budget. Okay.
No response.
Okay.
And so I will tidy this up to reflect kind of what we've discussed and kind of simplify it. But I think some form of this document is still going to be important
Yes.
as part of the
It should
public
be.
record to
Yeah.
justify, to explain to the public in general, it's full transparency.
Yeah.
Right.
Why
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 we're
we're,
taking this action.
and I will correct some of those statements to acknowledge the town's role, that at least as much as I know of, and, show that the town participated in this situation.
It's good that Picker
Right.
remembers, because none of the rest of us were.
Well, it's also
Around it,
important,
that's
I think having this document is important to the property owners too, because now they have hopefully closure
Right.
on this.
Yeah.
Right.
Unlike before, where it's searching for information that's not there with regard to what happened.
And documentation has been done
Yes,
and corrected,
yeah.
And done well.
hopefully.
Right, that's the plan.
Yeah, and like you said, you can put it to bed, you don't have to worry about it.
That's.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the next, you'd be in contact with folks for their individual.
Right. I
pieces
do
and
think
parts.
that I'll try for the next, the October 30th meeting, I'll try to have a finalized, cleaned up version that everybody feels comfortable with, so that the select board can actually approve it, get signatures. I'll add signature blocks like the other one had signature blocks with notaries and stuff like that. So I'll add that. So I'll aim for.
But the contract, they'll move forward.
The contractor will
Yeah.
move forward with performing the work now.
Yeah, so we can just let
Yeah.
you know tomorrow to
Okay.
schedule it.
Chris?
Yeah, we should independent.
Yeah.
Right.
Could you send me a copy of that?
Oh.
Posted bid?
Oh, certainly I will. I just haven't had.
Yeah.
This is the only thing on her plate.
Yeah.
If only.
I mean, the fact that it didn't go out till this morning is a clue that I
Yeah.
was straight out.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you for your patience.
Yes.
All right,
But I will send all that stuff.
thank you. Number 5. Keep your water commission hats on. Water commission, consider retroactive approval of a water connection application for Ed and Whitney German.
So moved.
So,
Waive
second,
the convection fee.
yeah, second.
Ready?
What was that one?
Oh, yeah, we should probably vote on that.
What was it?
That was a 73 Pine Street, Vermont's water
See,
connection.
they came off the same,
So
every
they're
street.
coming up back
What we
on
discussed at the last meeting.
rather than.
So they're getting. a
That I
proper-
wasn't at.
It occurs to me, if we could circle back on the other item.
I was gonna ask you that about the connection fees and the connection and
Well,
the
that, but
applications.
we should have a motion of accepting the Munson quote
Yeah.
and to proceed and
Okay.
to
I jumped right
execute a
ahead.
contract amendment
So
to
moved.
do it.
All right, so going back to number 4, so,
Yeah.
Speaker made a motion to approve the
and it sounds like Ian just seconded.
Contract amendment.
contract
proposal.
amendment proposal
So all those in favor?
and to prepare the agreement.
And to authorize me to proceed with the
Yeah.
agreement per the terms discussed.
Yes.
You got it.
Terms of 5 years.
All right.
5 years.
And hopefully with the discussion, maybe that cost will be cheaper. We'll see.
Yeah, not to exceed.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then go back to this one. So we had a motion from Michelle.
Second, oh no, Joe second.
Somebody
Joel
seconded.
second.
I thought
All right.
Peter did, but no, he didn't.
I didn't.
I did, yes.
know about it. I
All
was
those in
asking.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on. Sorry, I jumped ahead. Consider approval of a letter for the tax sale of multiple properties in Bristol that are at least 3 years behind in property taxes.
So this afternoon, hopefully folks, select board members received the forwarded email from Kevin Brennan, his engagement letter to authorize him to proceed with the tax sale stuff and then draft tax sale letters to properties.
So just so you know, we're gonna remove the one that has a purchase and sale on it, because we don't wanna waste money if it's gonna actually close.
That's
There's
a
actually 2 properties.
There's 2 properties he owns, they're just in 2 different names. And then the one property on Rockydale, we're not gonna have them send another letter, we're just gonna tell them to proceed with the tax sale. Because we're never gonna get a response, it's just
So-
gonna come back to us.
So for all of these.
Yeah.
Or some of them are land only, for parcels, are people actually living there or not?
The one
Yeah.
on Rockydale, nobody's there, they
Right.
passed away.
Okay,
That's why. And-
right, we talked
and-
about that one in the past, but there's
The
quite
one
a
up
list here.
to
up by my way, Ireland, or,
Steady,
this one,
sir.
this one,
I don't know.
it's just property.
Okay, but so the others,
Sharon would know.
I don't, these are all, they're all
occupied?
residences, are most of them residences? Sharon?
No, well, there's one on North 116 that's land only, that's
Yeah.
O'Connor. Cressick is land only.
Yeah.
Steadies is land only, so there's 4. The rest of them, I believe, have houses on them. And I think they're all, they all have,
People living there? So then what does it mean? I just haven't
well,
experienced this.
like the Wheelock ones, we don't know who's living there. She's not,
Okay,
but
okay, so then what is it, I haven't been through this before, explain what happens with this.
So right now, what they're gonna do is Kevin's gonna send a letter to each of the landowners saying, you owe this so much.
Right, they haven't been paying property
They haven't been
taxes.
paid,
Okay,
you pay by this date or we're gonna pursue tax sales. So then
So
you have to
that's-
go through and do a warrant, a tax levy and all that and set. And you have to give notice, there's certain
3
statutory
weeks in
requirements
notice, I think, yeah.
for notice, 3 consecutive weeks in whatever the newspaper is. And eventually you get to the point where you set the date for the tax sale and.
Yeah, it'll be sometime in the middle of December. He said it's usually about a 2-month.
And does that work like an auction, or is there a price placed?
Pretty much on auction, people show up. I mean, at least somebody from the town has to show up to at least bid the tax amount,
Right.
and so what happens to the people living there?
They
get a year.
They get a year to redeem. If they don't redeem in that year, they gotta get out.
So if someone buys the property, then they have to
They
wait.
can't do anything for a year. No, they have a year to redeem.
But they have to pay on that property?
They have to pay what's owed to the town.
Okay.
Plus all
And
the
then
attorney's
anything
fees
over
and
the-
interest and penalties.
And then if the bank, usually banks bid on it, if it's got a bank on it,
Right.
the bank's gonna.
Yeah, and
bid on
actually,
it,
one
at
of
least
the
what up to-
properties has a foreclosure on it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, again, like Ian, I haven't been through
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, the
Just
bank,
asking.
How
the
many-
bank sometimes will jump on that. If there's a
Yeah.
bank and they're, especially if they're in foreclosure, but they may jump on it.
How often has Bristol done this?
We haven't done this since I've been on the board.
Yeah, we've done it a few times.
We've done it a few
The house
times, but it hasn't been recent.
The house that I live in was repossessed at one point.
Okay.
I mean, I think when Jen did it, we might have,
Jen's never done one.
Done
We
one.
did the
No.
letters and that's as far as they
Right.
went.
I mean, she usually, it was pretty good. We had a low list of delinquencies. She had a lot of people on payment plans and they were working at it.
It's
But
here,
COVID.
stay away from it.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the, we did the one for Carterville. That was a nightmare. Because we did
Oh,
that
yeah,
one
that
years
was before
ago.
my time, so
Long time
it was
ago,
at least
but-
over 6 years ago.
Okay, so it's a long
It's a
process
process.
and hopefully
It's a
those
process, yeah,
people
it's
who
a
were
process
there
and
are able
it's
to.
statutory requirement,
Okay.
so.
And Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, but if somebody paid on day 360, they get, and the redeemed it, came in with it and paid theirs. We have to pay the person who put the money down, the bid on it, you got it.
You
Gotta
pay
pay them
them.
interest too, correct?
They have to
Pay
pay
them.
that. They have to pay that.
They pay
They
to
pay
us,
whatever.
but then we have to pay them back
Yeah, with interest.
with interest,
Yes.
except minus the attorney fees and things of that nature.
Well, the taxpayer is responsible for all
Attorney
that.
fees.
And most of these properties are at least 4 years behind, and of course, we just sent out another tax bill, so.
Going on 5.
Okay,
Right.
So-
Thanks, Sharon.
do you need a motion for this or what do you need?
To approve to sign the letter and.
I would think so.
Motion to, make a motion to proceed with the tax sales.
Second.
Sharon, are you signing or is Kevin signing?
Kevin signing it.
Signing.
Who do you want to sign the engagement letter, myself or Valerie?
I would say let the house
Let
sign.
Val sign it.
Okay.
Okay. All those,
Who moved and seconded?
I'm
Ian
Ian second.
yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, number 7, consider award of a contract for update of Bristol's local hazard mitigation plan. May include deliberation and executive session regarding contract negotiations.
Hi, this afternoon I emailed folks my memo of recommendation. We received 6 responses to the RFP. Andrew LaRoe at the Regional Planning Commission assisted in the review. I'm putting that's my memo, very quick summary of the responses and our scores. It was pretty close, 3 of them were pretty close, but from my review later this afternoon, I recommend that Seam Solutions out of Barre, Vermont be awarded the contract. Now that the lump sum costs of each proposal are, they're all different. And so that was not a primary consideration. I mean, it was a consideration, but it wasn't the tipping point in any of the reviews.
Why wouldn't we hire somebody out of Alaska?
Or Arkansas or North Dakota, I was thinking the same thing. I think I put a lot of fluff in that and send this side.
No, and I spoke with
The top 2.
I spoke with the woman from Seam, and I was very satisfied with our conversation.
Okay.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
So I'll make a motion, we go with Seam Solutions for the hazardous
Hazard
mitigation
mitigation
plan.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
I didn't get to see it, so.
Just giving you the option, All right, moving on, number 8. Consider retroactive grant application and authorization for the Hub Teen Center to the Vermont Community Foundation.
So.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It was nice that they were asked to apply for that. I read that. That doesn't happen very often.
No.
Number 9, consider approval of the Lister's errors and omissions report.
So move.
Second.
We just did one of these. Are these new properties or what happened?
I think there was some sort of change after the tax bills went out. And in their notes, Patty explains at the bottom of each table some of the circumstance.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at it, but I was like, I must not have looked down far enough to see why.
Yeah, they're at the bottom.
Okay, need a motion on that?
I think somebody did.
I did,
Yeah,
and Ian seconded, I did.
Ian seconded.
Ian seconded, all right, sorry, guys. So all those in favor?
Aye.
And I myself. Number 10, review and approval of the September 11 minutes, right? You said 25 was not available.
I make a motion to approve the September.
I'm sorry, Dara, can I ask the question back to the errors and omissions? I just read it, so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
House site and homestead values changed per filing HS 122 for 2023. Michelle, you may comment on it. HS 122 information was received on 10/9/23 after tax bills had been mailed. This will result in their receiving a revised tax bill, so everybody's there's gonna be a cost there, right, send a revised tax bill?
I did 7 today, it's just printing them and mailing them out.
Well, the mailing is the cost.
Yeah,
So when we putting out 1,800 of them, 1,600 of them, there's 1,600 properties, right?
yeah, it's over 1,600.
I wonder why they just got that HS 122 now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Probably, people are still calling about it.
they're still filing.
Today's
I thought they had to have it.
So you're not
Today's the
sending,
deadline.
so you
Yeah.
send it to
I
everybody?
finished mine today.
Okay, thank you.
So you might get a revised tax bill.
Okay, doesn't have to send it to everybody, just the
No, we
ones we
don't
want.
Just-
send
yeah.
everybody,
Oh,
there's
okay.
just certain ones that.
I
get
probably won't
revised.
this year.
All right, okay, thank you.
I highly doubt it. You
I
know,
make a
should-
motion to approve the September 11th minutes with whatever changes I think I sent, very minor.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Second.
I looked at them, I didn't see anything. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Number 11, authorize accounts payable warrant and any liquor or tobacco licenses.
Read the number to make sure it's right, because she sent
There's a
us an
second one, right?
amended one.
Yeah.
Amended one, that's not the one.
$462,384.
Must have made a monthly payment there, you must have made a monthly.
Yeah, we also have to make a bond payment of almost $100,000.
Right, for the fire station.
No, for the renovations that were done here for water, sewer, and for Holly Hall, we're still paying on that. It's not.
I didn't ask, I didn't say it was. You were very hopeful about that, but no.
All right.
Okay.
And we do have one liquor license, Nomadic Chef.
No.
She's renewing her third-class license that expires at the end of this month.
That's for 10.
So I just need approval to go ahead and
So moved.
Tandem Nomadic Chef.
Second.
The old Bristol Village store.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 12, Select Board Roundtable. Ian,
I'm good.
Michelle?
I think I'm good.
But thank you, Eric, for cleaning out the culverts up our way. You and Cy, thank you, Cy, too. Peeker?
I am good.
Joel?
I'm good.
I am good as well.
Holy
Mackerel. I
smokes.
know, that never happens, right?
You should, that make it, everybody gets a gold star.
Other business, correspondence reports, correspondence received.
We do have a long list of items that were included under other business, mainly for the select board's information, just to keep you informed of different things. There's the budget status report through September. We regretfully received the resignation email from Coco from the library. She anticipates her last day being October 26th, I believe.
That's the person.
Yeah.
She was very good.
Yeah. Some other communications, communication from the Bristol Rescue Squad, giving us a heads up that they expect to increase their appropriation request.
They will have to go through the signature.
Yeah,
process.
I informed them of that. And some other FYIs and newsletters, and also we received a memo from the VLCT informing the town of changes to the unemployment insurance. That's ultimately going to increase the town's budget.
Of course.
For the Bristol Rescue, did you send them the signature form? Or just inform them?
The policy that includes the template in there.
Just bought them an ambulance and now they want more money. Come on.
Dire straits.
How much are they looking to go up? They were what,
22,000.
$6 per capita in the area that Bristol Rescue provides coverage to. The amount requested for the town of Bristol on that basis will now be $22,692. I believe they're
15.
They're 13.
15, 18.
I wonder, what about all the residents that subscribe?
I know, I was curious about that. Will they no longer do that, or is it maybe?
No, they'll do
It's a
that.
subscribe
Oh,
figure.
yeah, that's big money.
Yeah, and they also, even though you subscribe, they still bill your insurance.
Right,
If
they just
if
don't
your
come back.
insurance
Just
doesn't pay,
you don't pay the
bill.
difference. That's what it was with me.
You don't get, they don't come after you for the balance.
Right. I mean, and what percentage of their budget is the subscription?
People, you know what the town of Middlebury
Yeah,
paid,
you
Middlebury
could
Rescue
certainly
last
ask
year?
them for that.
86,000, it's
There should be.
122 this year.
Actually,
Middlebury Rescue charging town of Middlebury 86,000 last year. This year it's gonna be somewhere in 122,000, right?
they actually should be charging $30 per person in Millbury, and that is not
No,
in order for them to.
I get there.
Do we need any
Solve it.
further executive session this evening?
Yes, I have to finish up.
Okay, we have to finish up.
Correct, real estate, and did you have anything you wanted to bring to the board's attention about your meeting with the trustees?
Sure, I can mention that.
And I think we covered,
Brian Jones, the boy,
I have two things.
is leaving.
Both of them real estate.
They're closing. They're
I know, I
not
was-
closing, they're going back to be doing wholesale.
Right.
Running a bunch of houses. Jones the boy in Almost Home Space,
Almost Home.
the bakery. It's just the
Yeah,
amount
I
of
was
work
sad to see
to be
that.
open to serve the public is just a lot more work than doing wholesale.
Right,
So
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we enter executive session to discuss.
Two things for you guys, before you go to executive session, I forgot to mention. The Freightliner we have the Freightliner back now, but the front end on it still needs a bunch of parts.
Is this a new one, the new word one?
2019, 18 or 19, it's the four-wheel drive one, the one that does Briggs Hill and, alright, well, we had an oil leak in one of the seals on the axles. Took it over to Bristol Diesel, he went through it, and the pin and the bearings on both the top and the bottom of the A-iron, or the knuckles, are shot on both sides. Can't get the top
Drive
ones.
it too hard.
Well, I know, can't get the top ones, the bottom ones they can get. The axles, you can't change the U-joints in the axles, cause they're made to the axles, so you gotta buy the whole axle. You can only get one of them, the other one's not available, don't know when it's gonna be available. So they're actually in the process now of looking for a whole new front end.
Whole new truck?
Not a new truck, just the front end. So, but now we at least got it back, and we'll just have to keep an eye on the gear oil.
Yeah, it's not
It's not
dire,
unsafe to drive.
right.
We wanted to get the oil seal fixed before winter came.
It's not looking promising.
No, it's not.
Not very well. And come to find out, which I had it in the back of my mind, but it just didn't dawn on me that when you order a truck of this for four-wheel drive, it goes to a third party to get the four-wheel drive put in. So Freightliner doesn't actually make the front end. It's Alkali Quigley's or another vendor. So that's why we're having such a hard time getting parts for it. And the other thing was, Peter and I went up to Briggs Hill and Lincoln Road and walked that area to do the repair on stones and stuff like that, stone and stuff, and he sent me the figures of what you'd estimated, right, Peter?
Yeah.
And it'd be, I don't know if you want, I don't wanna say it, because I would, if it goes out.
Yeah, if you're gonna let it out to bid.
Right, gonna let it out to bid, I don't want.
I draw this fancy picture.
But, just wanted to let you know that we went up and looked at it, and he did the figuring and all that stuff.
That's what we talked about.
That's what we talked about, yeah.
Okay, so basically, it's, this is just stones on the slope, keyed in down at the bottom, and this is what it would look like from the face. It's 50 feet here, not 50 feet there, and that's how much of the road would be taken out. One site's 50 feet, the other site's 100 feet. If you've got questions, I can, that's a engineered drawing right there.
Where's my
I
stamp?
could tell they were
Where's my
stones.
stamp?
I could tell they were stones.
Well, I tried to make them as irregular as I could. I started going and they're all looking the same. They're not, all-
This is the one section of Briggs Hill that's.
it's the two sections.
Okay.
One section is 50 by 100, the other section is 50 by
But
50.
same.
Same design,
Okay.
yeah. Basically, about 50 feet down, there's a shelf or a semi-flat area where we could dig in and set the first rocks.
Okay.
And then go up from there. But it's about 6 foot of rock.
Okay.
And that's why they get a little smaller as they go up. The big ones tie in down the bottom, and then you can get smaller.
So we'd have to talk about whether we want to take this approach.
Yeah.
Versus others that have been
Yeah.
presented, or more that might be presented.
So what I would suggest is we share that concept with the engineer and have them include that, include that in their kind of scoping of alternatives.
So I heard what the engineer gave you for a price for, this is comparable. Complete, yeah. It's with, well, it's a little bit more, but not much.
Okay.
I'll share the numbers with you in
Okay.
executive session, that way if you decide you wanna go that route and let it out to bid, it's not.
Yeah.
That's the guardrail,
That's
this is
the
the
guardrail.
road and the guardrail, and then this is the side view.
And is this something that we have to decide on as soon as possible? Because aren't we have concerns about the guardrail being long enough to be able to
It is
drive
out
over.
there a ways. I
On
mean,
on the bottom slope, yeah, the
Okay.
guardrails, it might be a foot to maybe 18 inches above the roadway right now, where the guard, in that section where
Yeah,
that
it's
is sunk.
Yeah. So do we have a plan, does the town have a plan to fix that before snow comes?
They don't know, I mean, not unless we can do something like that.
Yeah.
My only thought of doing is put some barriers up for now. We got some Jersey barriers that we can lay in there.
Okay.
It'll narrow the road up a little bit in that one section. But at least you wouldn't have to worry about anybody going over the bank if they
Yeah.
slid.
Cause I know you were concerned about that.
yeah, we'd have to put danger slow signs and be
Okay.
prepared to stop, and then we'd have to make sure we tied the end of those Jersey barriers in so that somebody couldn't hit them. You know, they're gonna have to be.
Well, they're gonna have to be on an angle so they can glance.
Yeah.
Okay.
And theoretically, you're not even supposed to use them, you're supposed to use them water ones. Which
Well,
we
the
don't.
water will freeze and it'll be just as hard as the concrete.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so we
But I mean, you know, that's what they say you're supposed to use now.
do have a temporary plan, at least before the snow, of hopefully
Yeah.
making that safer.
Yeah.
Cause it's fairly
It's just-
well traveled, right? I mean,
Yeah,
the plow's gonna go up there.
well, when we looked at it,
There was
half a
several-
dozen cars
Yeah.
went by,
Yeah.
and we weren't there 10 minutes.
Right.
Every
And
time
you
I've been
could-
up there.
What somebody brought up, I can't remember who it was it you, Peter, that brought up maybe making it one way for
Oh,
the
yeah.
winter?
That
They
was
could
talked
go
about.
up it, but
Yeah.
couldn't come down.
I would
I
think
think
it'd
Or
probably be
would
the
you
other
make
way
it coming
around.
down,
So
coming
there'd be a
down?
lot-
Cause that side of the road is.
Cause you're over next to the bank, yeah. So you could theoretically, for this winter, until it was fixed, you could make it a one-way road for the winter. We would still plow it both ways, but,
No, you wouldn't be able to, you'd have to go up around and come down the other way. You couldn't go up over.
I mean, the bus goes up and down through there, they're gonna have the bus.
I'd call dispatch down in Betcha Town, they couldn't do that, run that road anymore, at least for this winter.
Not
Yeah,
up
it's
anyway.
Not
compromised.
up anyways.
Yeah.
Well, so out of those two, concepts, which is one that's more,
Palatable.
yeah, the Jersey barrier solution or the one way?
I'm a little nervous about the liability of shrinking the road down if somebody meets there and they hit.
Yeah.
I mean, you still probably have to put the Jersey barriers up anyway.
Oh, yeah, you would, but then you wouldn't have the,
Yeah.
obviously, there's gonna be people that are
Yeah.
still gonna go that way, but at least if we
Put the signs up.
put the
Yeah.
signs up and
Do not enter one way, just like they do around the square.
I wonder if,
That they don't listen to.
I'm thinking of the traffic ordinance, and can that kind of change in roadway pattern be implemented without amending the traffic ordinance?
It would
It's a
be
temporary.
It's an
it's
emergency.
temporary emergency issue, and yeah, you can,
I mean, the other alternative is to put, road close to local traffic up at the end of Atkins Road and put Jersey barriers right across the road at,
just below Blue's.
yeah, and right across the road at the bottom.
And just close that.
And just close that section of the road.
That's the safest, right?
Well,
Yeah.
that's the safest thing, and then what I would do if you guys wanted to go that way, is, I'd talk to Lincoln and see if they could just plow it. Cause we'd have to go all the way through, well, not all
We'd
the
have
way
to.
through, but you'd have to go past where we turn down on Lincoln Road, all the way up to Atkins, cross Atkins Road. Unless we said that because we're closing this road, we'll take care of, you know, where we're traveling, 'cause I can't see driving over this much snow to get to where we gotta plow.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do that, only in the village.
I was gonna say, you guys got three of your trucks go right by mine?
You-
Not anymore, you don't. Used to.
That isn't what I was alluding to, but
No,
I'm not gonna say it.
So for closing it, how much pushback do we get for that, if we close that?
How much
section?
push, you're gonna get some.
You're gonna get some from Ladou's.
You're gonna
And
get
you're
some
gonna
from
have
the
to-
dudes, you're gonna get some from the bus driver, you're gonna get,
I would make it downhill, one way, going downhill,
probably
because
about the only ones, you get probably half a dozen.
So she has to stop at Young Brian's driveway, they got a kid, they got two that drop off there, one or two.
Who?
The bus. That's why they come down over that hill. If
No.
you close it,
Young Brian's, both of, oh shoot, that's right, both of his kids.
Both his
still in
kids
school.
are.
so.
And they got
Well,
their
they got
youngest
different
one.
drives, cause one of them is the one that slammed me.
Mhm.
last
Well,
time.
they got their youngest one, I don't know,
Right.
it's either Bristol or Elementary,
I don't
or
know.
Bristol or Lincoln,
I don't know.
their
But
youngest.
if anything, then,
I
we
would
have,
put-
are we obligated to put a bus turn around? That's what I'm asking. If you close the road, and you gotta turn that bus around, are we, as a town,
Well-
I think we are obligated to plow
The only thing I would suggest would be that way, seeing how the bus is literally 200 feet up the road. Is they can,
them. You run that by them, I'm not gonna.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Should this be an
There's no
agenda
reason-
item?
Yes,
perhaps.
it
Yeah, I think it should be.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because
But
we've got 3 or
anyways,
4
I-
different options that we should look at,
Yeah.
outside of a more permanent fix.
Yeah.
Just to deal with the safety of this.
You're not gonna get to that this year.
Yeah, we were. But anyways,
Okay.
you could put a bus turnaround in down at the bottom. I wouldn't put the Jersey barriers down until you went past Ludow's driveway down the hill until you got to the flat spot, because we're gonna have to turn around as well with our truck.
Right.
So I would make it down at the bottom where the flat is, easier to turn around.
Yeah, there's room enough there to.
All right, so we'll add it to the agenda, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll see.
We'll have to go up and look at it to see logistically where it works.
Right.
I mean, the other thing you gotta do, I mean, it's gotta be, if we're gonna block the road off, it has to be, well, it'd have to be signed up above, so we shouldn't be liable.
Yeah, you'd have to sign it from Atkins, well, not from Atkins, from,
Atkins Road, yes,
well,
you'd have to sign it there.
Atkins, and you'd have to sign it from the other one too.
What other one?
The one that takes
Well, it
up
would be right there, right at that intersection, Atkins and Isham.
an Isham Road, you'd have to sign it right there.
All right, come on, Jimmy
And
needs to go
next-
home.
yeah.
Come on. I can just see him, he's like, come on.
We're gonna close the notch while we're at it. Jimmy.
There you go.
There you
Wait till you're home.
Just the upper one, yeah, there you go.
Good night, Jim.
Okay, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for coming.
Hey,
All right.
I'll make a motion to enter into
Thank
executive
you.
session for 1 VSA section 313 regarding real estate negotiations.
Oh, Jill's got a question.
Okay. 2 questions.
Are you saying good night, or do you have a
Peace
question?
out, good night, guys.
Thanks,
Bye. All right,
Thank you.
so moved, or second.
Jill.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm gonna do
Hang on, I gotta get rid of Nate.
Let's see, so I'm gonna stop recording.